Okay.
Okay, Pete, for the record, announce which board members are present.
We have Deborah Thompson, Mary Hart, Mary Rose Evans, Robert Lee, Robert Schindler. That's 5 members, which constitutes a quorum.
Okay, that being the case, we will call the August 26th, 2020 109 board meeting to order. We are obviously doing this by teleconference, and if we get any kind of interruption in the video or the audio, we will suspend things until we can get that straightened out. Pete or Karen, since you all are acting as technicians on this, any announcements or procedures that you would like to ask us to follow before we start?
No, sir. One question, Bob. Is your camera not operating?
It was a minute ago. Let me see.
Does anybody else see Mr. Schindler?
For some reason it was turned on.
There you go. Yes, sir. There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we've calling the board meeting to order at 5:37. First item of business would be the approval of the minutes of the August 5th, 2020 meeting. Have all the board members had an opportunity to look at the minutes? Does anybody want to make any changes, corrections, or additions to the minutes? Can we have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So that was Mary Rose on the first and Deborah on the second.
Deborah on the second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the August 5th meeting, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Hearing none, the minutes for August 5th are approved. Item 1 on the agenda is the illegal dump final report acceptance letter from the state. Pete?
Okay, I'm going to share the presentation with everyone on the screen. We received, if everybody remembers, we had received about $290,000 or so for a illegal open dump grant on Garland Avenue, which had a huge amount of tree debris. It was a 3-year closure, and we finally have that closed out. The site is done. This is a letter from the state basically saying that they've received all necessary documents and they consider the grant is closed. So just to give a quick update, let me do this. So this is bigger for people. This was the breakdown for this grant. $251,000 was the grant amount, and we had $90,000 from the district and Develop Louisville. The bid award was $342,500 based upon a lump sum amount. The expenses actually ended up coming a little bit short on that, and at the end we had a lump sum contract balance payment of $52,250. In all, 3,212 tons of material was removed. Due to the screening process, we removed a lot of material that didn't need to be, which I believe really kept the price down. All that material went to the Outer Loop Recycling and Disposal Facility. And you should see the letter in your packet, and you should also see all the breakdown of the expenses, the equipment used, the disposal, all the details in that. If anybody has any questions on any of those, I can pull up that document if need be. Any
Is
questions?
the project, as far as we're concerned, finished? Is the site clean the way we want it to be clean?
The site is pretty much done. There is still dirt on the site. The site, I believe I had noticed that it was actually going to go up on the commissioner's steps to be auctioned or sold. And I'm not sure if we'll recover any funds from that or what the disposition of that was. But hopefully at the next meeting, we'll find out. But as for us, I believe that the site is complete.
Are we going to have any issues keeping it secure until hopefully Metro can get rid of it?
Well, we've had some issues with people trying to bust through the gate. And what we've done was we got with Public Works and got what we call, the huge concrete blocks. Some people call them mafia blocks. But nobody's going to get through the gate now. So they would have a hard time. I can't believe that they got through the gate originally because of the way we had done it and the size of the locks and chains. But if they get through this, then they've got crane equipment and everything. So I feel pretty good about it.
All right. Is there any questions or comments from the board members? Oh, okay. Next is the budget report.
Due to the fact that we just had our meeting on last meeting on August 5, I didn't complete another budget report. So no report there this meeting.
Oh, okay. Then moving on to action items. Number one, approval of the purchase of a stake body flatbed.
Okay. Oops. Wrong one. Sorry, guys. Okay. One of the things that we've been looking to do, we've been renting this a stake bed for quite some time, and it's due to litter abatement. And while it's worked, it's been paid for through rental agreement of $990 a month. But we want to be able to use that vehicle for more than just litter abatement. So what we did was we went out to look and thought that maybe we can purchase one, save that $990, let that be used for actual litter collection. So we're getting a little bit more bang for our buck there. The cost of this, as you can see on the presentation slide, is $51,165. It includes a hydraulic lift on the back that is flat, that would allow us to be able to put pallets of latex paint and stuff up on there, because that's really kind of what we want to do with it. It also has a rear view camera for safety, and it's got a crew cab, which hopefully when we get back to the point where we can have inmates, that will come in handy. Although we have been using modified duty people to go out in this vehicle to pick up litter while we're waiting for them to come back. But anyway, that's kind of what we want to use this vehicle for, and we're asking if the board would approve the purchase of this for $51,165.
Does anybody want to make a motion to approve?
Bob, I have a question, please.
Yes.
Was the $990 rental fee, was that coming out of the 109 board's budget or what?
No, sir, it was coming out of the litter abatement grant funds. So that is an allowed expense under that grant. You can't purchase from that grant. So that's the reason that it was a rental vehicle. We're hoping that if we have a vehicle we own outright, that 990 can go back into doing more litter abatement collection.
So is there a balance in the litter abatement grant?
Well, we'll be talking about that in the next section. If you want to come back to this, we can talk about that litter abatement budget. If you remember, there was a little bit of concerns about that budget at the last meeting. What I can tell you is that, if we don't want to do that, then we still have that budget money in that grant, but we can transfer that into personnel to do more litter abatement. It's not a huge amount. I think the total in that budget line is $15,000. But for the rest of the year or whenever we get this, any excess funds that we were paying for that would go towards litter collection.
Mr. Chairman, you think it would be good to look at that slide first for the abatement grant and see what it looks like?
Yeah, I would have no problem with that. Can you bring that up? Look at it now, Pete.
Sure. So this is, if you guys remember the last month, we had some concerns about the state highway sweeps for cleanups. And we didn't know what we was going to do with Brightside, and they had not put together their budget because they were in flux just due to COVID-19 and not being able to conduct some cleanups. So on this slide, what you'll see is that the Brightside has presented us a budget of $42,000, and which frees up $21,000, which would go into the personnel services, so that it would allow us to have more feet on the street cleaning. On this line that did not change was the contractual services, and that's the state bed truck rental and some odds and ends that sometimes come out of that cost center. We left it alone at $15,000 because we felt like it was a little bit of a minor amount that would easily could be transferred up in the personnel services as time went on. But it would also, in case we don't get this vehicle, it still allows us enough time or money to be able to pay for that throughout the end of the year. The insurance for the inmate labor we left alone. We don't know if we'll get those back or what that bill would be if we do. So we left that money alone. Fleet and fuel. We're still doing litter collection. We're just doing it a little bit different. So we're still expending those funds. And as far as the state highway cleanups, we have talked with the state, and because there has been so many issues across the state with questions about what is and what is not allowed, the basic response is that they gave us was, you can use these for funds as listed in KRS. So in other words, they didn't want to answer the question. And if we get audited, then we would have to be able to justify these funds. So in the end, we've left it as it is. I know we've already conducted one of these. We'll leave it in here, and unless the board wants to pull it out, I'm not sure what else to do. I think it's legitimately cleaning up the highways. I think it's expensive. I don't think that we have much choice in the way that we do it because the state doesn't allow us to clean up on the interstates. That's where we're at with it. We're leaving it as D, depending upon what you guys want to do with it. And supplies have stayed the same. So to go back up to the purchase of that truck, I think that it's, we left the money in here. If you guys approve that purchase, that'll only go down, and we'll just move that stuff up into personnel services and clean a little bit more roadway.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair, can I ask a question here? I don't understand what personnel services is. Can Pete tell us what that means?
It's personnel cost.
Well,
It's-
yeah, but I mean, where are the personnel coming from? Whose personnel are these that we're paying?
We have 2 solid waste officers that take out inmates every day.
Okay.
Well, we did. We still have those officer positions because we haven't laid them off. And what they have been doing is going out with modified duty people at this time. So the cost is to pay for the officers, and we're also using some personnel on overtime to help us keep up with complaints and requests. So it's basically paying for people to go out and do it. We are down 1 officer right now because she was brand new. She had some concerns about COVID-19, and she had used up all of her time and was not able to stay, unfortunately. So right now we're down. We're not really feeling it right off of the bat. We're just trying to push as much of that towards money to go out there and clean at the particular time.
now when you say modified duty people, it's people working for the Metro Solid Waste Department that for some reason can't do their regular job and they're on light duty more or less.
Yes, sir. They are light duty. Their personnel charges are remaining in their time slot, so they're not being charged to litter abatement, but they are going out to do litter cleanup.
And when you full inmate complement, these 2 officers listed under personal services, they're basically the inmate crew supervisors, correct?
That's correct.
I've got a question getting back to the state expressway cleanup. You mentioned that they said we could spend the money as it was allowed in KRS.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
It's for the cleanup of litter from roadways and for education, litter education. That's basically it. We had an audit. Everybody in the state, the state kind of changed their method about, 10 years ago. And a lot of people, including Jefferson County, they said that we didn't have any our expenditures were not allowed under the grant. We was definitely in company with everybody else. In the end, we justified every one of our expenses, but there was such an outcry from all of the counties across the state that the recycling and local assistance branch decided that they would not do the audit, that it would go to the public auditor. So what the local assistance branch is saying is you can use it for what's in that KRS. We're not going to answer any questions. You'll just have to justify your expenses to the public auditor if they come calling.
So basically, it was the public auditor that raised this issue that we can't spend, basically you can't spend state money to pay another state agency, i.e. paying the state who then pays the contractor to clean up the expressways.
No, the state auditor didn't do it. They didn't bring that to us. It did come from the local assistance branch that they had a problem with it. This was kind of like, we have a problem with it. But when I pressed for an official position on it, they would not give an official position.
So, if I'm hearing you right, nobody at this time is telling us we can't do it.
Okay,
That is
can I
correct.
chime in at this time?
Yeah.
To your point, as we're talking, I did talk to the local state area here in Louisville, Kentucky, the local office for the expressways, Cindy Markell, and she's supposed to be sending an email. I just talked to her yesterday. And I asked her that same question about cleaning some of these on and off ramps more frequently, as well as the expressways. And she came back to me and told me this, is that they are going to allow us to do that, but we have to we can take it back off the state contract to pay the contractor directly, as opposed to going through them. That will solve all of that. We won't be sending to the state, but we will have to use the contractors for the state. Now, Swartz is the primary contractor, and what will happen is that they will have first right of refusal, and then they have another company, some landscaping company, that's the secondary contract. So I asked her, she told me this over the phone yesterday afternoon. So I asked her to send me that in the email so I can share it with the board, share it with you all. As soon as I get it, I will give it out to you. It'll help solve that problem. So sounds like to me we can go directly to the contractor with the state to avoid, avoid the state being a conduit to pay the contractor for the expressways. Not only that, if District 5 wants to do more, they can do more on the ramps as long as they pay the primary contractor. So I think we're going to end up getting a definite answer to solve this issue.
Okay, so basically they're saying that we can pay the contractor, we don't have to go through them, but it is their approved contractor, and therefore that contractor can work on the interstates.
Yes, sir. Especially, like I said, during a non-mowing seasons.
Yeah, so we're using, they bid the contract. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, we can use state contracts. We don't have to bid them out ourselves, since there is an existing state contract with this contractor. We can piggyback on that contractor and use that contractor to clean the interstates.
Absolutely, just like we do purchasing equipment. We do the same thing with equipment and other services that are on the state contract. So that is correct. We wouldn't have to bid it out.
Okay, so it sounds like, assuming she goes through and gives you that written confirmation, then we're back in business in doing those off-season litter cleanups on the expressways.
Yes, sir, because I asked her to send me the exact contact person for each contractor, because I didn't know, I don't have a contact. So that's why I asked her to send it to me in writing.
All right. So I'm trying to figure out, do we want to go back to the original issue, and the staff is requesting to purchase a stake bed truck rather than lease a stake bed truck that would be used primarily for litter cleanup program, but it also would be available to other district projects. Because as I understand it right now, that use of that truck is limited only to expressway cleanups, or to litter cleanups, since it is paid for by the litter funds.
Yes.
But if we purchase this truck, and being a district truck, it could be used for any of our district programs and not just at another time if it was available, correct?
Absolutely.
And it would free up it's like $12,000 a year to go to having more people picking up litter. So
Right. Well, getting back to the number one action item, there's a request from staff to actually purchase this truck. We probably, to do it according to Robert's Rules of Order, we probably need at least a motion and a second so that we can then get into discussion on it before we take any action. Anybody want to make a motion to actually purchase this truck?
I'll make a motion to purchase the truck. I'm assuming when I make this motion that the staff has done the appropriate finding the best price and are bidding for it, whatever they needed to do to get to this price. So, but
We have a motion by Mary Rose. Do we have a second?
I would second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Now, getting back, Pete, to Mary Rose's question on discussion of this motion and on discussion of this motion, Mary Rose's question. You said that there was some issue before that you thought the price was too good to be true, and
That's gonna be on our next item, which is the hybrid Escape. But,
I'm sorry.
But this one is, what I will tell you is that it goes through our fleet department, and they're all the time working to do it. If it has to go out to bid or get quoted, they do. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of this is purchased through the state contracts. Keith may be able to give me a little bit more light on that.
Yeah, but with personal vehicles, it's either the state or we do have a Sourcewell contract that we can go through to purchase equipment and the vehicles. So either way it goes, it'll have to go out to bid. And the garage, of course, with the state bid as well as with this truck, of course, they'll keep up the maintenance on it. So we won't have to worry about that, which is, which will be a minimal expense, but at least it'll be in our fleet. And so, yeah, so it won't be it'll be a quick turnaround and getting it ordered to where we'll have to put it out for bid again.
okay, I have a question, Pete. What kind of impact does this have on our budget? Do we need to revise the budget for this year, or can this be purchased out of our carryover funds?
Yes.
I believe that this can come out of our carryover funds. If you remember, at our last meeting, we discussed potential expenses, and this was one of them that we knew that would be coming. So I believe that we're set up to handle it.
And then in next year, you usually have to budget the maintenance of it, which is not going to kill our budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there additional questions or comments from board members?
Yeah.
I have when is there insurance on this that we also have to budget for?
Yes, that we actually even carry insurance on the rental vehicle that we have. All that is taken care of through our budget, and it comes out of the interdepartment expenses. It won't be, it's not a whole lot. We already pay the same insurance for other vehicles that we have in our fleet.
Okay.
Pete, this is Bob. Can you give me other examples besides running paint for the recycle to be recycled? What other uses would we be using it for?
That's pretty much it. If we have hauling that would come out of our sites, that's what it would be used for. This vehicle is primarily 5 days a week doing litter abatement pickup. It would not be used very much for the latex paint program, which is actually suspended at the moment. But we hope to pick it back up soon.
Are there any other questions or comments?
So what you're saying is we'd be putting out this money now and versus $990 a month, but the $990 wasn't coming out of our budget. The $990 was coming from a grant. But this new amount would be coming out of our budget, correct?
That is correct.
And you're saying that while you hope to use it for other things other than the litter abatement, you just acknowledge that, you know, it would be 5 days a week for litter abatement, which was covered under the 9 month, correct?
Yes, it would. So if we had to do that where we needed this vehicle to carry latex paint, we would send our litter crews out into a pickup trucks or a van. And then the next day we would come back and pick up the bags and stuff that they have put on the side of the road. So we can make it work if we need to.
Yeah. So does it sound, is there enough other uses for it to warrant buying it outright and, you know, with all the maintenance and all that that's going to be involved with it going forward, in your opinion?
I guess from my point of view, I would personally like to have control of our own vehicle instead of renting a vehicle for years and even paying more than what the vehicles was worth over a long period of time. So we have better control of it. We can specify this thing to make it work better for us. You know, the vehicle we have that we're renting isn't a new vehicle. And it has its own issues. So this is our preference. It by no means is a desperate need, but it is our preference.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment to that too?
Yes, ma'am.
We as a board are also responsible for grant is spent. And we could consider that we should consider that it's better to spend the $990 a month on personnel picking up litter than it is to spend it on a truck if the board can have a truck available for this grant to use. So I think that that's the additional benefit we get out of it is this extra $1,000 a month toward picking up litter.
So we still get the $990, but.
Right, but we'll be spending it to pick up litter instead of renting a truck.
Okay.
Just doing here, the $900 a month is about $10,800 a year. Times 5 years, that's $54,000. That's roughly the cost of the truck. My experience has been that in vehicles like this that aren't heavily used, that we'll easily get 5 years worth of life out of this truck. So it's kind of I don't want to say it's a break even, but you would get, for the price of the truck, we would get more use out of it and free up that $900 to be used for other things within the litter cleanup program. Would Pete, would you or mine just went blank. Pete or Keith, would you all concur that your all's experience has been that truck will last at least 5 years?
No, it'll last 15 years because we're gonna take care of it. Particularly because we're not putting a whole lot of heavy stuff on there. You know, it's not being used and abused. I mean, it's not going through the same terrain. But you know, trucks like that, you know, it's 7 to 9 years easy. That's just kind of but again, the way we use trucks, the way we're gonna use it, utilize it, it should last us at least 10 years at a minimum, especially if we keep up with the maintenance and everything.
Do I understand that this cost for the truck is coming out of 1 year's budget? It will be paid off this year?
Yes, ma'am.
then that's only a plus. I mean, we're not paying it off in 5 years, we're paying it off this year.
Yes, ma'am.
So that money will remain in, whatever excess will remain in the budget in upcoming years. So it
Yes, ma'am.
sounds like strike while the iron's hot with this one, because we have the extra funds freed up from the 900. So we're not paying for it for 5 years, are we? We're
Correct.
paying it off this year.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move this to a vote. All those in favor of authorizing the expenditure of $51,165 for purchase of a stake bed truck to be used to support the litter cleanup grant program, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, signify by saying no. Okay, the item passes. Item number 2 is the 2020 Escape Hybrid, which we've talked about for a long time, but you have it listed as an adjusted price.
Okay, we discussed this at the last board meeting, that we had a price of $21,500 after it fluctuated up and down. Unfortunately, that was actually for a previous year model, I believe, is what the confusion was. But that quote was sitting for quite some time, and when I went back to purchase it, the price had changed. So we're at $26,979, which is still much better than what the first price we had of $32,000, I believe. And we're only $2,000 over what it would be if it was not a hybrid. So I still believe that this is a good deal. So I would ask the board to approve this expenditure as well.
And this vehicle is for the enforcement officers' use, correct?
Yes, it splits between the public educator, Diane Newton, and the education/enforcement officer, Jessica Turner.
And right now, what are they using for transportation?
Pool vehicle or my vehicle, because I've not been at work because of I'm working from home during COVID.
So this provides our enforcement program then with dedicated vehicles for those officers to use.
That is correct. And if we can follow through on some of the programs that we're talking about, they will definitely be out and about much more. So we're going to need this vehicle.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval to buy the vehicle.
Okay, we have a motion to purchase the vehicle. Is there a second?
I second the motion that we purchase the vehicle.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion or questions from the board members? Hearing none, I guess we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of purchasing this hybrid for the enforcement program signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Hearing none, the item is approved for purchase. Thank you all. Moving on to item number 3, the fiscal year 20 litter abatement budget, which we looked at previously.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any additional comments, Pete or Keith, on this budget?
No, sir.
No, sir.
And I'm assuming the column on the left is last year's budget.
Now, the column on the left is actually what was proposed last meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Is there any particular reason why the Brightside figure has dropped?
Typically, they conduct 2 community-wide cleanups, and those cleanups generally will get about 5,000 or so volunteers, and they supply, using these litter abatement grant funds, PPE and brightly colored shirts to help visibility along the roadways. They were not able to do that this spring due to COVID-19, and a lot of stuff was in flux. And they've also been without a director as well. But they gave us a budget that I believe, let's see, that says that they are going to conduct a fall cleanup. However, it may be a little bit more diffuse over a longer period of time, but they do anticipate a good turnout again. So they're requesting 5,000 T-shirts. They're also looking at restocking some of their materials, so for printing, for workbooks and graphics, for presentations, for education, and for broken cleanup tools. They want to get $1,000 for safety vests, and these safety vests are really for the Brightside champions, the leaders of these groups. The other ones wear the T-shirts. And they also are asking for $10,000 for a litter awareness campaign that would go into best shelters, best interiors, and benches. So that's basically the request. Their normal request 5 years ago was about 100 and something thousand. About 2 years ago, that dropped to about 63,000 because we were dropping in our grant funds. So at this time, they're asking for 42, just due to the modified schedule that they're having to maintain.
And it looks like basically the drop, you all moved the Brightside funding, you all moved that dollars up to the personnel services. So hopefully we get back to normal, we put more inmates on the street.
More inmates or more personnel. We're going to have we're kind of behind on our expenditures for personnel, just due to the fact that we did a period there where we didn't have anybody doing it because of COVID and the inmates dropping out until we made some adjustments. And so we have a little bit of money to make up. So we'll be pushing it for the rest of the year. Just number one, because we do want to expend the money, but number two, we need to cover a certain number of miles for the grant.
Are there other questions, comments? Well, I guess,
Chairman, may I?
yes.
If we save any of that $15,000 once we stop running the truck because we have a new one, we will put that money up into personnel as well?
Yes, ma'am. We may end up putting the 3,000 for the insurance and the inmates in there as well.
And here's the other thing that we're going towards. I just want to let you all know that talking to vendors, we're getting more requests from council districts about routine cleaning. And so we don't have a litter abatement contract per se. I'm now working on putting together a litter abatement contract, period. So it'll take care of if we don't have personnel. it'll take care of whether if COVID stays around. I think that's what we need to go to ensure that not only this little money gets spent, but if and when the administration wants to put more money towards litter cleanup in our city, the contract is there for us to utilize. So we won't have to depend so much on our staffing or other types of staffing. So once that gets in place, even with these changes we're making to our current litter abatement, we can really be sure to be more effective and to be more consistent in litter pickup on a regular basis once we have some contracts in place of our own, which we don't currently have. So I plan on having those hopefully, late fall or early winter to have those contracts in place.
Okay, thank you. This is an action item on the budget, so the board needs to approve this budget, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can I have a motion to approve this budget?
I'll make a motion to approve this budget.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second the motion to approve the budget.
We have a motion and a second. Is there additional discussion or questions from board members? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the fiscal year 21 litter abatement grant budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the budget is approved for current litter abatement grant budget is approved. Next item under action items is the MOA between the district and Brightside for their part in the litter funds.
Well, I've kind of went over this budget just a little bit, but what I would direct you to is the actual MOA, which should be in your packet. I can pull that up. Just a second. Does everybody see the actual MOA on your screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this would be the agreement between the department, the district, and Brightside for the expenditures of these funds. We do this each year so that we can ensure that they get what they need and we get what we need. This agreement is an annual agreement. So unless there's any questions that I can ask, this is the agreement.
Looking at the agreement, item number 4, Brightside providing a report. Have we, has the board been provided, or has Brightside provided to you all a report for their previous year's activities?
What they provide us each year, which goes into our state annual report, is all of the copies of any education materials. That's not been a problem. They always give us our estimated community student contacts and locations of the signage and stuff that they use. Where we sometimes have difficulties is the cleanup forms. And this is one of their issues there is that these go out and they rely on volunteer groups to complete these, and sometimes they're not getting them back. So we've been working with them on trying to be able to get that done in a timely manner. We end up getting them, but we have to really push to sometimes get them.
So any information that they provide under that number 4 is reflected in our annual report to the state.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you next year when you guys are preparing the annual report to bring to the board for its approval for submission to the state, can you pull out that Brightside activities and just highlight that for the board's benefit as when you present the annual report to the board?
Yes, sir. That is typically our process. We've just, this COVID-19, I hate to keep bringing up that name, but it just kind of has made it difficult for us to do some of those things.
I understand. Can we have a motion to approve this MOA between the Waste Management District and Operation Brightside?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions on this issue from board members? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the MOA for the upcoming year's activities signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the MOA for the upcoming Brightside Litter Funds usage is approved. Your next item is a request for funds for the Hubbard's Lane Recycling Center.
The Hubbard's Lane Recycling Center sits at the Department of Public Works East District yard, and it's been there for quite some time. The site had an issue with flooding, and it's just been a long time since we've upgraded. And over time, the concrete has broken up and the asphalt is broken up. So what we're looking to do at this time, if you can see my cursor, is replace the asphalt that goes around here with a significant amount of asphalt. Of course, it's going to have to mill out some of this material to make it where it's going to last a while. And then to put this back as concrete. And the reason that we have to go with concrete is because dumpsters just are not going to hold up on that asphalt. Those roll-off dumpsters, some of them weigh up to 5 to 6 tons. And as it goes down, those wheels will dig into new asphalt. So what we have, that's why we proposed concrete. Once we, to get this, it's our intention to move this structure, which houses the used oil, used cooking oil filters and as such, and move it over here and put more dumpsters along here and not so much things over here. We would still have the packer that is for cardboard. Pretty much most of our dumpsters are going to go there. So we're not proposing to redo this quite yet. So that's what we're looking at. And then this is some actual images of the roadway that goes around. You can see that it's really pretty tore up and broken up down through there. It's just, it's been good. It's held up for a long time. It's just seen its better day. This is images of the concrete that's in there. As you can see in this section, it's chunks of the concrete that are coming up. You can't see as well, but this has gotten to be fairly unlevel ground and chunks of it come up, which is also a safety issue when we have people out there walking to put stuff in these dumpsters. So this is a long overdue work that has to be done. Now, what I will say is it's expensive. This actually came in quite a bit higher than what we were originally anticipating, but I believe that it's higher because we're doing it right. So they gave us 2 options, and we're doing this through the city's contract so that we can get the best price. And this is option 1, and more or less, this one is more expensive because they were going to mill this out more where this concrete is, so that we would have what's called reflective cracking. potential for reflective cracking in the asphalt after it's laid from these cracks that are there. So they're going to want to try to mill out that a little bit further. So that's the first one, which has a price tag of $99,813. The second option is to not necessarily mill that out as much and use a fiber added asphalt, which would resist the cracking over time. So that brings that price down to $81,589. And there are some other options that may be there if we could use Public Works people to do the regrade of the gravel lot. It would save us $2,500 to use Metro Public Works to do the speed hump. That would be another $6,000 or so. So we might be able to get this down to about $70,000, which is expensive, but it's something that I think needs to be done sooner rather than later. I believe that we do have the funds in our budget to do so. So I feel like that the other sites are in pretty good shape. And by doing this, it's going to put us in a better spot. What I would also add is that Facilities is working on the trailer that's there. And they are pretty much gutting it, renovating it, and bringing it up to speed as well. So we're getting that done at no cost from the Department from Metro. So that's another contribution from Metro. But once all this work is done, this site will look really good. I think it'll increase our safety, and it'll make us look a whole lot better.
I can give a little bit of historic perspective on this. This site was opened in the late 90s as a recycling center, and it was out, what I would say, out back in the Public Works yard, and it was strictly on gravel, which was a real pain in the butt. And then in somewhere close to, I don't know like the exact year, but there was a building out there that needed a lot of work, and it was not worth doing the work on the building. So the building was torn down, and I think the building was at least 50 years old. The concrete floor of the building was where we moved this recycling center from out back. We moved it over to the concrete floor of the building when the building was torn down. So at that time, that concrete floor was at least 50 years old.
Wow.
That is the concrete that they are operating on right now, which in the late 90s or early 90s, I'm sorry, or mid 90s. The center was open probably in the mid 90s. So in the concrete was 50 years old, and we've got 20 some odd years worth of operation since then. So that's just a little historical perspective. Is it your all's recommendation to go with option 2 and try to reduce that by getting some help from the Works Department? Is that your all's recommendation?
That is my recommendation, yes.
So if we would approve this today for the 81.5 figure, it could possibly be reduced if we can get that assistance from Public Works Department.
That is correct.
Hey, Pete, are you forecasting us closing while we do this? That's the other question we need to be mindful of.
We've talked with the contractor, and they said that they could work around everything that we do. Although I'm a bit concerned about that plan for safety issues. There is a potential that we wouldn't necessarily have to close it, but we may move our dumpsters out to another location temporarily. They feel like that it'll take about 4 to 5 days to complete the work. And we would immediately be able to start operating on it the next day once they're done. they would do the concrete work first and then the asphalt work.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm worried about being down, but I think that there's ways around it.
Well, at the same time, I would say close it down so you can get it done right. You want to move so much stuff so many times, you move it minimum, from place to place. 4 or 5 days ain't gonna hurt us, and then we'll be back up and rolling again. That's what I would strongly suggest. We just close it down, move everything out of the way, and keep everything close so they can get in there and get out. I think we can manage it.
Sure. And we'll, whatever we do, there'll be a robust notification to the public. We'll start
Right.
handing stuff out to those people
Right.
as they come through in the weeks prior. And we'll
Right.
get it out in all the newsletters. And we'll have, we'll probably shift a lot of that material to unstaffed sites and over to our outer loop site as well.
Where did we get this bid? Did we send out a request for bids or?
We're using the Metro's paving contract. So any roads that are done, this is the same contractor that does the work. We got a little bit of, I guess, they want to keep Metro happy because they want to keep the contract. So we feel like that this is probably a pretty good deal. At least talking with our administrator over at in Public Works, that this is really for what they're doing. This is a decent price. If you guys feel like that we need to put it out to bid, that's y'all's prerogative. Absolutely.
I think,
I wouldn't think you would necessarily stand that good a chance of getting a better bid, because the paving contracts that Metro has, they've probably got lower price to start with just because of the volume of work that they do with Metro.
right, I agree. It's a good bid. I wasn't complaining about the amount of the bid. I just wondered how we got it.
Sure, we did it through the Public Works roads
Who
division.
is the contractor?
You would ask me that. I'm drawing a blank.
I mean, it's not,
We'll find out. We'll find out and let everybody know.
thank you.
What's the budget impact of this?
Well, this is a substantial expenditure. However, we do have the funds in our rollover amount. So, we may expend more funds this year than we do typically, particularly with the fact that we still have our expenditure for our front load truck that's on that 5-year payment plan.
Wow.
So we may be taking a little bit of a hit here, but I think it's definitely sustainable. And I also feel like that it's a necessary thing that we're doing.
We don't have the figures in front of us because of not having a budget report this month. What roughly is our carryover?
Just over 1 million.
Oh, well,
So today we're taking 51 and 81 out of that, correct?
Yes.
About $130,000. Okay.
I have a question about the Hubbard's Lane Recycling Center. Is that property owned by Metro? Do we rent the spot that we're working on, that we're improving, or does Metro own? How do we have control of that land?
I'm going to leave that one to Bob Schindler. He seems to have a really good history on that.
Hey, it's Metro owned property. back when I was working for Metro, or actually back when I was working for Jefferson County years ago, we had to do some research into that site, and it was actually, if my memory serves me right, it goes back into like the 20s when the county government actually operated its own quarry to get rock to use to repair roads, and that was the quarry. And eventually the rock ran out. They couldn't quarry any more rock. So it eventually ended up being the first district. I don't know what they call it now under Metro, but it ended up being the first district public works. So it is Metro owned property.
And I would also add that the waste district does not pay a rental fee for being there.
I was just thinking in terms of we're spending a fairly sizable amount of money to improve this property. We should at least know if we're going to maintain control of that property over the next several years to make it worth our while to make the investment. But it sounds like it's okay and we do, but that was my question.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet. The county's going to hang on to that or Metro's going to hang on to that for a while because it is their major public works yard out in that end of the county. I guess since this is an action item, we do need a motion to approve this expenditure.
I make a motion to expend an amount of $81,589.93 to replace the driving lane and resurface the concrete at the Hubbard's Lane Recycling Center.
Motion has been made by Mary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion, second by Deborah. Is there any additional comments or questions from board members? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving this $81,589.93 project signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, say no, please. Hearing no no's, the item is approved. Thank you all. Then we move on to old business.
Hey, Chairman, Bob.
Yes.
I believe it's Louisville Paving that's gonna be doing it. We have 3 contractors, Louisville Paving, Halls, and Flynn Brothers. I just called Jeff Brown to see who our contractors were. But I believe it's Louisville Paving that's gonna be doing it, but I will confirm. But those are our 3 contractors that Metro uses for your information.
Okay. Thank you. Mary Rose, did you get that?
Yes, thank you. I
Okay.
did.
Old business. Pete?
Yes, sir. I don't have I lost my agenda on my screens. Can you tell me what item it is?
It's the passage of the Chapter 51 by Metro Council.
Sure. Let me drop off of here because that's not part of the presentation. I just wanted to let everyone know that we did discuss this a little bit at our last board meeting, where a lot of the ordinances inside of the Urban Services District for residents and small businesses that receive services through the Department of Public Works, we did a revamp of those ordinances with the primary thing that we worked on was allowing the department to collect bulky waste items by appointment. There was also some items in there related to litter baskets as well, which was also in Chapter 51. And we presented to the Metro Council, was sponsored by Brandon Cohn. And after some discussion at the council meeting, it passed unanimously. So we are in the process now of working on implementation of those things and working out more of the details, particularly with education and outreach to make sure that people are aware of those changes.
Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, Pete, you want to move on to new business?
Yep, I still don't have my agenda up, Bob. You're going to have to guide me. a little bit.
Okay. First item of new business is the 2019 annual report statistics summary.
Okay, as earlier we was talking about the annual report and not being able to really get into a whole lot of detail. One of the things that we've been able to do and wanted to bring back to you guys is to report some of the statistics. They're fairly easy to report. The first one is the residential commercial recycling rate. This includes curbside, it includes drop-off sites, it includes peddlers that go to some licensed facilities into this rate. So based upon what we did last year, our actual rate has dropped by 0.5%. Some of this may be due not necessarily a loss of recycling material, because if you look at the averages, we're really right there at the same amount. What has changed is an increase in landfilling. And I believe that is what drove that number down a little bit. So 26.6, we've had a target rate of 27% and we've dropped under that. You know, it's good to know that we're dropping and so that we can do some targeting programs to do a little bit better with that. The next diversion number is the overall diversion, and this includes the residential and commercial rate, and also includes construction and demolition material, which is very heavy. So that's why the number goes way up. And materials that are reused and not necessarily recycled, but we do include it. So that rate has also slipped slightly. We're at 49.98%. That's down from 51.7%. Sometimes when you're doing these diversion statistics, it's important to keep in mind that they'll change a little bit once we get some more reporting. Sometimes we get what would be considered leakage, material that was going here, now it's going there, and it's like a little shell game. And sometimes we don't find out where something went until later on. So keep in mind that these may still increase slightly. It always does.
Can you go back? Can you go back to that last slide? Just out of curiosity, what's the purpose of doing the average tons on 16 to 19 and then 15 to 18?
Right. Well, what we did, we switched to a rolling average, and a lot of that was due to the fact that we had big swings in some of the commodity prices, and that was particularly in metals, where we would have just a record year, and then people would start holding it until the price came back up. So we would get really wild swings, and this we felt like gave us a little bit better understanding of the trend of where we were going. We still do the annual rate, but again, it sometimes is more confusing due to those wild swings.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The next one is the curbside recycling rate. This is what people typically look at as affects everybody, you know, because it's at their curb. So we always break this down for the past, 5 or 6 years to kind of show what we're doing. And So overall, the rate is at 16.3%, which is down from 17.5%. I really can't offer too much as to why, other than maybe some of the commodity prices has changed. But you know, it's kind of difficult to kind of gauge this. We don't do this on a rolling average. We do this on an annual average. So if there's any questions there, I'd be happy to answer. And then the last statistic that we keep is the variable rate pricing structure. Each year, the private waste haulers report their average prices for each of their services. We do this, we've been doing this one for quite some time as well. If you remember seeing this report previously. The overall price has steadily increased a little bit year over year, as would be anticipated. The prices can be a little bit all over the board, particularly when you get into yard waste. I know that you have two of them that have really high costs. And I asked them about that and what they say, because some people do things seasonally. And but I can say that those are the prices averaged on a 12-month year. So whatever it would cost seasonally divided by 12 months is what that number reflects. So if there's any questions there, I'd be happy to answer.
The yellow number, I'm assuming, is a monthly average, right? Monthly
That's
cost.
correct. Yes, I apologize. These are monthly costs.
And you have 5 haulers listed. Is at the current, there are 5 haulers doing residential service in the county?
That's correct, outside of the city of Shively and Louisville Metro.
So how do these costs compare with those of Metro, or, you know, people that live in the urban services district?
Well, to calculate it, Metros is a little bit more difficult because it's not necessarily a subscription or a necessarily contract where it's very easy to figure out. The department is contained within the overall Louisville Metro budget, and there is a lot of in-kind or common good services that are included. The last time that the department did that was during the 10-year solid waste management survey or study. And obviously the prices in that study ranged from, you know, with the private or the hometown, home rule cities and the Department of Public Works averaging probably in that $12 to $15 a month range. So you have to also look at this as a price here for a private hauler includes those contract prices. So if there's, let's say that private hauler number 5 has half of their contracts is through contracts, instead of subscriptions, that would drag their price to be a little bit lower because it's just contracting and grouping is more efficient and costs less to do. And then in some of the unincorporated areas, you also have to consider density. It's more expensive to provide services to homes that are much further apart. You know,
Yeah,
It's just really all over the board in Jefferson County as to the prices of services.
okay.
Now, when you say the average for or the cost for metro services inside the urban service district, it was at that time was 12 something. That's you're isolating out just garbage, recycling, and yard waste. You're not including the junk collection, street cleaning, and all things like that.
Now, that did include the bulky waste pickup.
Okay.
And
All right.
that was hugely expensive, shown in that study, because as we were trying to go to that appointment system as part of that issue, we get everything, including the kitchen sink, at the curb, and just mountains of material. Some of it is due to abuse, and some of it is just because there's, people aren't using the garbage system to put their smaller items. They just wait and set out mountains of material. So hopefully that'll help on that cost of that bulky waste collection. But it did include all of those services. The hard part was taking out street sweeping cost. It was taking out special events, litter baskets, and that type of a thing, which is difficult to do because they're really kind of in the same cost center. So that was the good part about that exercise when they did the study, was it really dove deep into what the Department of Public Works did and really kind of gave it a good look at how it was doing and where it can improve.
All right. Any other things you wanted to cover on that?
No, sir.
All right. Your next item on the under new business is a potential fund request.
Yes, we're hitting you guys up for all kind of money tonight. So this one actually is not a request for tonight, but a potential funding request. And well, what we have is we've been working with the recycling partnership, for quite some time. And we've been working on trying to get grant funds for carts. Part of that goal is so that we can go to every other week recycling and not lose material. So that is our goal. So why do we want to do this? Cart-based is the most efficient way to increase recycling rates, which we know our rate is dropping a bit. It enables us to go at a lower cost every other week collection. It reduces litter because we don't have the smaller bins. It's effective recycling is critical to meeting our goals. And citizens see this as a clear sign that we have a commitment to protecting the environment. When you go to carts, and this is based upon the recycling partnership grantee outcomes, this is their numbers, not ours. But where they have done this, which is, can't remember, but it's probably over 100 cities where they've looked and been participants in this, that when you go from bins to carts, you see a significant increase in the amount of material that you're collecting. I think that's pretty much common knowledge. When you project that onto what the currently is done in the Department of Public Works, you would see that we would go from about 11,000 tons a year to about 18,000 tons a year. And that's just taking those and putting them, transposing it onto our current materials. And that would take the Department of Public Works curbside collection rate from 22% to 28%. And it would also increase the county-wide rate from 16 to 18%. So it would definitely increase the amount of material. Now, when we've been talking about this, there's only so much that we can really bring out. And these are some of the figures from the recycling partnership. And what we will tell you is that we're anticipating a 3-year rollout, although the agreement is for 1 year. And our first year would be to get anybody that's recycling now with bins to get them switched out to a cart. And what we figure is that overall, that's going to take us to about $1.3 million. And, 1 million of that is, or 1.295 million of that is for carts alone. We have an education thing that we feel like that if you put the carts out there, you have to have that education component, which would be about $2 a cart, which is about 56,000. So the recycling partnership has been working, and they feel like that we would come in around in grant funds of $1,071,000. That is that's a huge amount of grant funds, and that leaves us with a funding gap of about $371,000. There are still some outstanding work here that may erase that completely. We just don't know at this particular time. And the recycling partnership has worked really hard in trying to get this done. Another part of this is that before we can kind of pull the trigger on that 28,000 carts for this year, we need to complete a cart survey, recycling cart survey. It's important for us to know, number one, how many people are out there, how many carts we truly need. So the department is going to do that in probably, I think it's in October. I believe that's when it can be done, and that cost is going to be covered by Metro also. So all in all, Metro has about 310,000 into this, considering the 280,000 of Metro funds that's already been received. So we're not asking for funds here. We're not asking for funds now, but we do want to put this on your radar, and that we may come back if we fall short. And we feel like that it's important for the goals of the waste district to help us make this happen. So we can entertain some questions. There's some things that we can't discuss due to the fact that these are potential donors that may not want to have their name out there yet.
Pete, will I get my $50 back on the cart that I bought?
No.
You might have said this already, but I don't know what the recycling partnership is. I mean, who is that? What is that?
Well, it's been quite some time, but we did have them present to us via teleconference probably last fall, if I'm not mistaken. And it is a group that works with major funders, and that can be recyclers. It works with major retailers, Walmart, beverage container people, associations, waste disposal companies. You can go to their website and look up all of their different funders and to see everything about them. They're great. They're great.
Is that they're a nonprofit volunteer group that, or not volunteer necessarily, but a nonprofit group that promotes recycling. Is that?
That is true. Karen, can you kind of jump in here for me?
I think probably going to the website is the best thing to do, but they are really big partners. When I've gone to the Resource Recycling Conference for a couple of years, they pretty much help man that event. And so like Pete said, they do have a lot of high-end funders, but they do a lot of work and work with cities to promote recycling and decrease contamination. and they have the cart program. I would suggest looking at their website. But they did present. I don't know if we still have a PowerPoint presentation we can send. I'll look for that and see if she sent something, and I'll email it.
Thank you.
That's good.
Just a quick question, Pete. I'm assuming that the difference between what you collect in bins versus carts is that when bins fill up, people have a tendency to, if they have excess recyclables that won't go in the bins, they have a tendency to throw it in the garbage can.
That is one of the factors, yes. Can you guys see the partnership's website? I did pull it up.
Mhm.
So this is a little bit about them. There is a lot of great information. I'm trying to find the partners.
If we look it up, is it recyclingpartnership.com.org? What?
Recyclingpartnership.org.
Or
O-R-G. Funders.
we'll just send you the link. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can do that. These
Yeah.
are some of the funders.
Oh, wow.
A lot of them.
Okay.
A lot of them.
Any additional questions or comments from the board members?
Sounds like a good plan.
All right, there's no advisory committee report, correct?
That's correct. What I would like to say about the advisory committee, if I may, Bruce may want to jump in, but before COVID hit, we was in the process of renewing terms and membership. We're going to have to do that before the committee starts to meet again. So we're going to be getting with people to see if they're ready to continue to serve. And then at the next meeting, we'll put up a list of people to renew their terms.
All right. Staff report, education. Or Bruce, did you have anything to add?
No, as Pete said, we only have 2 members that are still within their term limit. And everyone else, I believe, term expired in March, right after COVID started. I believe it wasn't it, Pete? And we'll have to go through and look at the board members. We want to look at attendance and make sure that we have, the right people in there that's willing to do the job.
All right, any questions of the board members?
The only other thing I'd like to add is that we've worked with the Recycling Partnership in Columbus, Ohio and Cincinnati, Ohio on many different occasions, and they've actually helped us clean up the recycling by their OOPS programs and just their input. And Scott Meow and the group are very knowledgeable and very professional group.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else on the advisory committee, we'll go to the education report. Thank you, Chris.
I'm going to turn this over to Karen.
Yes, and I'll go ahead and add on to what Bruce said. We had planned on having Molly from Rumpke come speak to a meeting. I can't remember if it was advisory committee or board, but it was late March, so it didn't happen. But we can try to get that set up now that we're meeting again. She was going to share with the program that they did in Columbus.
Hillary is back. I'm sorry, Karen, but Hillary is also back to work now. So if you need to reach out to Hillary to get to Molly, that's the way I would recommend it.
Thank you. I have heard from Hillary since she came back. Thanks.
Okay.
So I did a webinar series as something different due to our situation. So I called it our No Waste webinar series, and we had 5 topics. And this has increased a tad because of recording views that we still get. But I wanted to just kind of share with you how that went. So basically, I put these 5 topics out. And did a WebEx event, and then the registrations are how many people signed up to come to the webinar, and the participants is the number that actually showed up in real time, which of course is lower. And then I posted the video on YouTube and through the website, and that's how many views we got of the recording. So I basically figured, well, the participants and then the recording views adds up to our participation, which I thought actually turned out pretty well for the first time doing that. I do have a plan to offer another series, and I've spoken with some staff from the Office of Advanced Planning and Sustainability. I know Julie Dunn is on here. So we're hoping to collaborate on at least one of those webinars to be about sustainability around waste collection and recycling. So we're excited about that. Pete, do I have control or?
I gotcha.
Okay, so the next thing I wanted to report about is our Recycle Right program, which is kind of the OOPS tag program, like what Bruce mentioned. The Recycling Partnership offers some resources online. Even if you don't have them actively helping you with the program, they have lots of resources you can use as far as graphics and things like that. So we kind of have a plan for this program, and we want it to be bigger, but for now we're kind of doing these little pilots with because we can do it with our current staff, and so it kind of will help us get it right before we move forward with an expanded program. But I'm going to kind of share a little bit about what we did. We chose 3 areas. One is in the Deer Park neighborhood, which has high participation of recycling, and we thought it would be an area that we just know that they're active recyclers. And then we chose an area in the South Side neighborhood near Iroquois Manor, and that would bring us some challenges with an international community. So we kind of wanted to push forward to try to get some challenges so we can figure out what things we're going to be able to do when we do the real deal. And then the Shawnee neighborhood, we picked an area that was actually a part of the original recycling cart pilot, which I believe happened in 2012, where I wasn't here, but a couple areas got recycling carts to try them out. So actually that area has a lot of recycling carts there. You can move on. Okay, so this is a little bit about the Deer Park audit, and this is, you may have looked at this. I tried to give enough information that you can kind of see it. We went out and did a pre-audit, so just to kind of figure out what we're going to be encountering when we do this. So in Deer Park, there were 123 households and 80% participation, and out of that 80%, 74% were recycling good. We looked inside the bins and everything to kind of figure that out. But if you look, so really that white at the bottom is, a big chunk of people were doing great, recycling right. But the 16% there is bagged items. So we did find out of all of the violations we were looking for that day, bagging recyclables was the one that we didn't want to see. And I may have forgotten to tell you the whole point is to look for specific violations. On this day, we were basically looking for bagged items, big things that really shouldn't even be in there at all. Plastic bags, like just random like Kroger bags or whatever, grocery bags, and then tanglers, which plastic bags are tanglers. It's just the most common one, that any other tanglers would be just like wires or coat hangers and things like that. And then in the South Side neighborhood, there were a lot more households, 217 households, but only 34% participation. So that is interesting right there. And then of those participants, only 40% were recycling right. And again, we're looking at bagged items being the top culprit. Styrofoam was up there too. And in this area, we look for styrofoam, bagged items, big items, food and liquid, plastic bags, and tanglers. We are using a Survey 123 survey. It's an online, it's working with our GIS department. They created our survey, so it's on our phones and we can click and easily, it matches up with the addresses there. So, so it's kind of a easy way to gather our data. We get our report. I also wanted to mention on the South Side neighborhood, we've met with the Office of Globalization to try to be proactive in working with an international community. So, so that meeting was this week actually, and we're gonna continue on with that. And then the Shawnee neighborhood, that did have a lot of carts, 37%. I don't have any words there, Pete. I don't remember what any of that is. What happened? So yeah, I see a lot of them were not participating, but and I remember 15% and 16% down there. One was carts that were out in the alley with like something in it, as if they aren't participating at all, because we went, of course, on recycling collection day ahead of the trucks. And then the other one, 16 or 15, it was full of garbage. So it was like they weren't even really trying. So in other words, these three areas bring different challenges. And then on the next slide, I'm going to share with you kind of our next steps. And so through doing it a few times, we're finalizing that online the tool we're going to use to basically decide which violations we're going to be looking for and tweaking data is inputted so that when it comes back to us in an Excel sheet, it's easy to evaluate. We want to communicate with the council people of each of those areas to share with them that we're working on this. Hopefully it'll be something that's well received. And then we will do a recycling audit with Westrock. So we'll collect those carts separate and take it to Westrock and have them look through it and give us feedback on what's inside their carts to get us a baseline. We are going to send a letter to the residents announcing the program and explain what's going to happen. And then when we actually go out to do the program, we're going to give them tags that are either like oops tags with an indication of what contamination is there, or if they're recycling good, then we're going to call them way to know tags. And so I don't have any images yet to show you of that, but eventually I will. And then we'll do another recycling audit with Westrock of the same area to measure success. Any questions about that program?
Sounds good.
Yeah, interesting.
Yep. It's
Very
been
interesting. Very interesting.
Yes.
go through the logistics of how we want to do it exactly. But we're excited. And it's been fun to get out in the field and kind of really see what people are doing. Because, you know, you can drive by in your own neighborhood and see it and notice things as you go on a walk or something. But to look at that many households all at once can be a little discouraging. So I think it's important. Yeah. The last thing is a brief report about the Master Recycler Program. I announced last time that we did receive the state grant to help us do this program. I decided we're going to call it not Master Recycler. I want to make sure that the residents realize that we're focusing on all of waste management and not just recycling, but reducing waste and composting and things like that as well. So I want to call it the No Waste Ambassador Program. We're currently working on exactly what our curriculum will be, and we'll eventually, of course, promote the program. I think we're going to limit it likely, just because we want them to be giving volunteer hours and things like that. So to manage a group of people, I'm sure we'll put some kind of limit, like maybe 20 people or something. And we just have to decide on dates. And we'll do most of it online. At the point of when we do the program, we'll see where we're at on tours, because that we think is a really important piece. So if we're able to do live, in-person tours of West Rock or Smith Creek, we'd love to do that. Of course, we're going to have to follow all COVID-19 safety and policies. So we'll just kind of see where we're at. And if that group of people doesn't get that right away, we're hoping this is leads to a volunteer program. So it's something that they could eventually do later once that opens up.
I like the little play on words with the No Waste Ambassador program.
Yeah.
I have to give credit to my husband for that. We took it and ran with it, though.
Just a quick reminder before we go on to the next report, everybody can make sure that you mute when you're not speaking.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Karen? Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
Pete?
I'm going to turn this next couple of slides over to Rob Lush. Rob, you ready?
Yep. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We completed the license renewals. As you can see, we got a total of 74 at 47 haulers, 21 recyclers, and 6 others at the transfer station. We've issued 2 citations for failure to renew. One of them was also for failure to apply as a waste hauler. And then next update is Metro Council did approve us $50,000 to purchase more cameras for illegal dumping. We're currently looking at getting some quotes. Right now, we're looking at probably around 55 cameras, might get it closer to 60. It's going to bring the total cameras that we have around 85 to 90 cameras. We will be hiring a new officer, going to start in October. And those funds came from what Metro Council approved for alley action team. And the purpose of this officer is solely going to be to maintain the cameras, because when you have that many cameras, it can be time consuming. I got an example in there that it's not uncommon for one camera to capture 20,000 images. So, and you have to review every single one of them. If you skip around, you might miss something. So, for example, reviewing some images yesterday, and one camera took almost 40,000 images. Every one of them had to go through. So.
Wow. These are still images?
Yeah, they're still images. The cameras that we're looking at now, they do take video. We may use the video in some circumstances. They're just, but what we have is motion activated. They're still images. Those work best in most of the locations.
Yeah. We've come a long way from the 35 millimeter, 36 images cameras. So we're really happy with where we're going. I think we still need to get a lift. I think which the Metro Council did approve those funds. Those are not district funds, obviously. So we're really happy with the Metro Council stepping up and putting this out there. Plus having the alley action crew, which I think pays for about 7 additional people. And their job is to do cutbacks, some litter collection, and clearing of debris in alleys that we haven't been able to do for, probably 10 years. So this will definitely help in clearing out these alleys a little bit, opens them up, which will hopefully create less opportunity for people to illegally dump as well.
We're using these cameras metro-wide, right?
That's correct. Yeah, they're all throughout Jefferson County.
Any questions, Rob? Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, no problem.
That looks like it concludes the regular agenda. Are there any comments or questions from anybody that's in the audience on this thing? I apologize, we've gone over our time limit here, but are there any questions comments from anybody else? Next meeting, suggestions? Do we want to do a board Pete and Keith first? Do we want to just schedule a board meeting for September, or do you all want to play it by ear as to whether there is a necessity for the board to meet to approve stuff or accept stuff?
Well, I guess my recommendation would be that if we get everything together for the advisory committee, we may ask for you guys to set up and go through with that meeting. Otherwise, I think that we've caught up quite a bit. Sorry about the meeting taking so long, but I think that at this particular time, we've gotten to the point where we're okay. And, other than the advisory committee and continuing to update you guys on some of these programs and update you to where we are in implementing some of the things that we've done in the past 2 meetings, we should be okay.
I suggest holding that date just in case something comes up with the CART program, because we're gonna be moving on that pretty quick in this next month. So if we got to come back, that'd be, I think, the only reason if we need to ask for something, because October will be here before you know it. We want to get, if something comes up then next month with the partnership, we want me to present something to you all. That's my suggestion. Y'all can decide what you want to. But if it doesn't comes up, I'm just saying, I guess I'm asking us just to be flexible for September.
It's easier to cancel than it is to call a special meeting if you get in a have-to case.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Why don't we just assume and schedule a September meeting, which would be September 23rd. And then if there's if it turns out to be really no reason to get together or to have any reports or anything, we can just cancel it.
Well, I just would point out that if it's going to be a WebEx meeting, it's a special meeting anyway. So that's not really relevant. Because this is a special meeting because we're not meeting in the regular place.
That's a good point.
So anyway, but other than that, I'm not available on the 23rd. I'm not saying you all shouldn't meet, but I'm not going to be able to do it. So it's just kind of an FYI.
Okay. All right. Any other business anybody wants to bring before the board? Well, thank you all very much, board members and staff members. And I guess if there's nothing else, we will declare the meeting adjourned at 7:29.
Amen.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Night.
You are.